You were so lucky. Life will never be the same as it is right now.
Great.
You're gonna go to the city and everything's gonna be exciting and busy, and you don't even go home for Thanksgiving this year. You stay in the city. You should go home. The only thing you can't get back is time.
Oh boy, it's a time travel podcast. My name is Nate, and he has Aubrey Plaza saved in his favorites. It's Brian Martin.
The one thing I can guarantee is she has no idea who I am.
When I jotted that down, I said speed dial. Speed dial's not a thing, though, right?
No.
Do people still do speed dial?
No, I mean, everything dials quickly now, right?
Exactly, yeah, I was dating myself if I say so.
And he has Aubrey Plaza's phone number written on a piece of paper, taped to the desk where his rotary phone is located.
Coming through on the ticker tape. Her number's coming through now.
It says, Aubrey Plaza, stop.
Oh, man. How are things?
Good. How are you?
I've got a new jar of olives.
Ooh.
And got my whiskey out.
What do you got over there? That's
Same old thing. I wouldn't call it a rut so much as a routine.
okay.
I know what I
That's
like.
fair.
I know what I like. Although I am mixing it with Sprite. So we'll see what that's all about.
Huh.
Blackberry whiskey and Sprite.
I will say, I don't tend to get out the good stuff for this show, Nate. I got to be honest.
Oh, this is...
I don't want to go through an entire bottle.
Well, you gotta...
Is really the only thing.
That's fine. Save it for the Ziggy Awards.
No, the Ziggy Awards, that's the good stuff.
Yeah. Well...
What I do have tonight is, I told you before the show started, folks, I am sorry, I do not have olives tonight, even though I have a brand new jar downstairs also. But my drink tonight does not pair well with olives, and that's because it is Southern Distilling Company's Southern Star Double Shot Bourbon Cream Liqueur.
Wow.
Which is just a wonderful little beverage. I always try to have a bottle of this on hand, and it's really to balance out the saltiness of my day. And
of your day.
I need something sweet, real sweet, to balance out the saltiness.
Huh.
That goes for the things I've ingested and the experiences I've had.
Oh? Any particular experiences you want to share?
Just general saltiness, man. Just general saltiness. And I think it pairs well, little balance of salty and sweet, with Aubrey Plaza, who always plays those characters. Got a little bit of saltiness.
Yeah.
But a little bit of sweetness there, too.
Underneath, there's the sweet. Yeah. But this is a good mixture. This Sprite
good.
with the... Yeah. I feel like if we keep talking about this stuff at the start of the podcast, I'm going to have to become like some kind of connoisseur. Like, people are going to wonder, what kind of whiskey is Nate drinking this evening? And it can't always be Bird Dog. So
Right.
I'm going to have to start drinking other things.
Nate's like, shit. Now they expect something.
Now, I'll stick with this whiskey and just, like, switch up my olives.
Different olive brands. Well, I can't guarantee anything, but I'm pretty sure, I feel pretty confident saying that there is not an olive review podcast out there.
Well, somebody will go looking for it now.
Oh, sure.
It's funny because I literally just got a chime from my mother.
You better not be talking about olives, she said.
She said, question, do you think what Coach Hand was telling Scotty to do in the first game is the same as the second? We don't really know how Scotty changed the instructions or followed through with them. So I don't think she understood what an audible at the line was.
Check it. Brown Richmond, 96 double. 96 double. Check. Oh, what a flare. Hot, hot.
Right.
So I had to kind of explain to her that, yeah, the coach had given him other options.
Yes. And he went against the coach.
And he went against the coach to make things play out the way they did the first time.
Which also leaves the ending ambiguous because everything stayed the same, regardless.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it didn't seem like anything changed.
Except for Kevin Koveas has...
I did go back and look at that.
Isn't it weird?
It is weird. It's like he nods towards her with a smile. Like, hey, check this out.
Well, how did this happen, though?
It's so weird.
It's
You're
so
right.
goofy.
It's really bizarre. Like he does know. Like he's the one that knows. I don't get it. There's no way we could spend 3 weeks talking about touchback. So
No, that would be remarkable. Out of all the shows and all the movies we've talked about, that would be the one movie that we end up spending like 4 fucking hours dissecting.
Yeah, no, we need to get off that topic right
Like it
now.
is-
I think people have had enough of touchback.
It's like writing a treatise on a piece of granite. It's like there's only so much you can fucking say about this.
Yeah, man. But this week I think might be a short podcast.
No, impossible.
Well, we are long-winded. But the reason I say that is because it's a lot easier to talk about things that you hate and just keep bringing up things that bother you.
But it's harder to talk about things that you like.
Yeah.
I will tell you straight out of the gate, what this movie does better than Touchback is star actual teenagers.
That's what you can see right away.
Already lends an air of credibility to it that maybe Touchback didn't enjoy as all the high schoolers were in their 30s.
Yeah. Yeah. This week, My Old Ass, starring Aubrey Plaza, which you can find on Prime Video.
Yeah, it released just last year, 2024. Written and directed by Megan Park, starring, yes, Aubrey Plaza as Elliot LeBrant, Maisie Stella as Elliot LeBrant, and Percy Hines White as Chad. Because, of course, what else are you going to name the guy?
Right.
This is a movie that is very personal. It's very insular, much to the movie's benefit. It doesn't have this massive, sprawling cast. I think there's about 8 characters total.
Right.
With lines of dialogue in it.
Right.
And I think the movie really benefits from that. You know, we were talking about Touchback just reaching for way too much and trying to achieve all of these things. And My Old Ass is really a coming-of-age story that is very direct and explicit, but with this added creative tinge of this time travel element.
Right.
So it manages to play out like some movies you've seen, but thematically and emotionally really adds something new to a genre that is, you know, kind of tired, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The word I would use to describe this movie is genuine.
100%.
This is a fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm.
As short as I said it was going to be, I've got so many notes and things that I would like to touch on, and very little critique or criticism that comes with this. I love movies like this, these types of slice of life stories, and you don't get to watch them very often. They don't come around so much anymore unless you're really searching through some of these streaming services,
or you're going to like an art house cinema and watching something like Wim Wenders' Perfect Days from like 2 years ago, which is another movie I don't know if you've seen or heard of, but wonderful, wonderful, just slice of life movie.
Yeah.
They're not like the big budget movies.
Right, exactly. And it makes me think back the last time I was watching something like this. You remember Movie Pass?
Sure.
Did you have a Movie Pass?
No, because I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Movie Pass as a concept to me was like maybe Funke working the banana stand for the Bluths.
Oh, so it all has to even out? Easy.
Take $1, throw away a banana.
Right.
Take $1, throw away a banana. And it's like, I'm not sure this is working.
It very much was. Yeah, I don't know how they convinced their investors that this was a viable business plan. But
like, no. This will work.
$10 a month, you can see as many movies as you want. Like, that was literally the plan I was on. It was $10 a month, and you could see as many movies as you wanted. There was no limit when I started. And at the time, I had a job where if I worked enough Monday through Thursday, I could leave as early as like 1 or 2 on Friday.
Oh, shit. You got Friday afternoon at the movies, man.
Yeah, and I just go to the movies by myself, right? And, of course, you get Movie Pass to go see Mission Impossible, to go see Black Panther, to go see
Captain
the big
America.
tentpole movies, right? But when those movies aren't out, well, I got to go to the theater. Here I'm paying for this service. I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. And I found that I watched a bunch of these little small movies, and it just turned out that those were the ones that I really, really enjoyed and were really, really glad I had the card for, the Movie Pass card. And
because it kind of forces you to go see the movies you otherwise would just be like, I'll catch it at home at some point, and then you never do.
Or it just never comes across my radar. The two that I gravitate to were Jonah Hill did a movie called Mid-90s.
Yeah, Mid-90s.
Did you see
A24?
that? Yeah.
I haven't watched it, but I know
Same
of it.
kind of idea, coming-of-age story about a kid in the 90s caught up in a group of skateboarders and kind of learns life that way. And then the other one, Bo Burnham did a movie called 8th Grade.
Yeah, okay, that's another one I heard about.
And both of those movies just were...
I feel really ashamed to have not seen the Bo Burnham one yet, honestly. I really like him.
Those movies, they score really high, and they score really high with me. I just loved that I got to see those movies, and I love that I got to see this movie. It's just fantastic. Thanks for the recommendation out there, Jeff.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said, what was the word you used to describe it? Genuine. Because the word that kept occurring to me was authentic.
Yeah,
like,
same idea.
This is, there's an authenticity to this movie that I'm not just saying it's more authentic than Touchback. I'm saying that the authenticity in this movie is at a higher level than most movies.
Yes.
You know?
Absolutely.
This feels really, really true to the teenager experience in a way that transcends generations. You could be a child of the 90s or a child of the 80s and then take away the same emotional impact from this movie as like a Gen Zer or a Gen Alpha, whatever you want to say. You know, like that's the current generation we're in.
Oh my
God. That's what it is. I always say, like, God help us when we get to Gen Beta. You guys are fucked. Like, I'm a beta. Self-identifying as a beta is, I don't know if you guys have noticed, if you've been on social media, like the platform Nate and I don't use anymore.
Right.
But self-identifying as a beta isn't the most popular way to enter a room. But besides that, I think the lessons and the feeling of this movie, and even just the interactions among the teenagers, these aren't teenagers of today. They're not teenagers of 10 years ago. They're kind of all of it.
Yeah.
They are the prototypical teenagers, and that's because it's emotion. It's engagement with one another. It's talking. Like, the interactions, the speech, all of it is so authentic. The look is authentic. It's just amazing to watch. And the time travel element kind of takes a back seat to all of it. Like, eventually,
it's just
you kind of forget you're watching a time travel movie.
Yeah, it just needs to be there for the story to happen. Like, it's not...
Yeah.
It's just an element in the story. It's not the same way that Millennium is about the time travel.
Those words will be engraved in the annals of understatement.
Yeah, it's almost like if you took that away entirely, this movie would still be pretty good.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
That element adds a layer that makes it really unique.
For sure. Yeah, exactly.
But the kids in this movie are so good, particularly Maisie Stella, that you just, I mean, it would still be well worth watching.
Yeah, everybody feels like a real person that could exist.
It's kind of remarkable and refreshing.
Actual human people. Like, like Louise Baltimore doesn't exist, you know?
Your mother was a cash register.
Like, it's just not... These are people you could just run into on the street. It's just incredible, but...
Whoa, wait a minute. Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me?
Precisely.
I realized that we've gotten this deep into the conversation, and
we're like 30 minutes in, and I didn't even summarize it.
I haven't heard your synopsis yet, so can you tell me what this story is about?
Sure, yeah. If you met your older self, what sort of questions would you ask? And conversely, if you met your younger self, what sort of advice would you give? These are the sorts of existential questions facing Elliot LeBrant, both young and old. 18-year-old Elliot is counting down the days until she begins college at the University of Toronto, living with her parents and younger brothers on a cranberry farm in Muskoka Lakes, Ontario. She spent her life waiting, very vocally, to get out of the boring insular community and follow her dreams to their inevitable fulfillment. Oh, youth. But as all young adults do, Elliot is about to learn an important lesson about the difference between aspirations and reality. But unlike most young adults, the catalyst for this summertime existential crisis is a visit from Elliot's 39-year-old future self, who manifests after Elliot consumes hallucinogenic mushrooms with her friends during a birthday camping trip. As proof that she was not, in fact, merely tripping balls, Elliot later finds her older self's contact info in her cell phone, and the two of them begin a long-distance friendship via texts and calls. While the older Elliot is guarded about the information she's willing to share with her younger counterpart, the one thing she's not subtle about is, quote, avoiding anyone named Chad. As fate would have it, this is a request the younger Elliot fails to comply with, as a Chad has just taken a summer job on her family's farm. Coached by her older and theoretically wiser self, but facing the fresh, wondrous emotions that come with youth, Elliot spends the last weeks of her last summer at home grappling with where she's been and where she's going, while older Elliot begins to wonder if age and wisdom do, in fact, go hand in hand.
That was good.
That was pretty good, right?
Yeah, good synopsis.
That's like a back of the DVD cover kind of, you know?
That was a little longer than you'd want that.
Long-winded.
Well, it gives away too much, you know? Like, obviously, this is what we're going to talk about. But
you're talking about the shrooms, right? It gives away the shrooms.
I don't know. We talked about genuine, authentic. It's a human story.
Yes.
The conflict is not like hero-villain, which I think we get trapped in a lot of times with the movies we watch on here, the stories we read. This is like a very internal conflict. And you were talking about how the teenagers seem to transcend their age, as in they could basically exist in any decade, right?
Yeah.
That's basically just saying, like, it's a human story that we can relate to them as individuals, right?
Yeah, it's tapping into emotions. It's not worried about capturing a cultural zeitgeist, right?
Yeah. So I couldn't necessarily relate to them as individuals because obviously their sexual orientation, their gender, and where they live and grew up.
Sure.
Right? I didn't grow up with those influences, but I can feel the same type of life experiences that our protagonist feels.
We know what she's going through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's very easy to know what she's feeling. You can put yourself in her shoes very, very easily. And I'd like to say this movie isn't necessarily targeted at us, but it really could be targeted at anyone. Like, anyone can get something from this movie.
This is one of the most universally recommendable movies I think we've watched.
Which is strange. It's strange to say that, though, given the fact that, like I said, they're young lesbian girls in Ontario, Canada. Yeah. Like, that doesn't really comply with a lot of things that us white males would take the time to watch, you know?
Sure.
I don't think any less of you for being straight.
And if you watch this movie, you're going to come across something that you can relate to, and that's incredible.
It is incredible. Nate, I don't know when the last time you spent any amount of time around teenage girls is.
Mm-hmm. Most of the people I work with are in their late 20s.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
It's not quite the same.
But... Yeah, I mean, like, God, it is so fucking unbearable. I just, like, I can't even. My point is, there's no point in this movie where I am annoyed by the teenage characters.
No.
It's just like we're getting a glimpse into their life, and it's so much more about the emotional roller coaster of being in that last summer at home before college starts.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And just following along for the ride, and it's tapping into something so deeply embedded in the human experience that if you allow yourself, I can't even say to connect with the movie, because I like, if you watch this movie and you can't connect with it in any way, I feel like the fault is with you.
It definitely seems like that. Like, if you don't have the empathy to understand what these people are going through, you know?
Yeah.
And it's not like they're going through anything particularly horrible. It's just life experiences that elicit emotions. For example, the farm is going away. The parents are selling the farm.
Yes, and this comes as a shock to Elliot, who was kept out of the loop on it because she was, one, about to leave for college, and two, as her brothers and her parents say, we just thought you wouldn't care.
Exactly.
Right? And it's not so much about the farm, it's that this is a thing that has existed in my life, and oh my God, things are going to be gone. Like,
Right.
I'm at the point in my life now where when I look back, that thing that was behind me just won't be there anymore. And
Right.
it's something that as a young adult coming out of high school, it's an idea that's never really manifested for you. I mean, I'm sure that's not universally true, but for a lot of us, we've had this sort of stability or this consistency that we've just grown to expect. And you soon realize that it's not just hyperbolic to say my life is going to change. It's
Right.
like actual, literal, life is going to change, and life as you knew it before, not just that it doesn't exist anymore, it's that you can never go back to it.
Dad! Dad! You're selling the farm? This is insane. This is our lifeblood. This is our roots, our blood, sweat, and tears, our history, our literal life.
Really sorry, Elliot. I honestly didn't think you'd care.
Right. Exactly. She exclaims that, yeah, I didn't want to run the farm, but I thought it would always be there. So
Yeah.
my experience when I went off to college, I came home and home was there.
Yeah.
We happened to move houses the same year that my sister went off to college. And the new house that we moved into didn't have a bedroom for her. So basically, when she came back from college, my parents had a bed set up in what was ostensibly the basement.
Mm-hmm.
She came back, and it wasn't the house that she grew up in, and she didn't even have a room that was hers.
That's the experience, right?
Yeah.
This movie's trying to kind of
It's like
convey,
the kind of
yeah.
the same idea, and I never talked to her about that, how she might have felt, or whether that, you know, is something she still considers to this day. But it's the same kind of idea. Like, you go away, and when you come back, things are different. And coming to accept that fact is a lot of what this story is about. Although there's so much going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of story, I feel like, to dissect as well. And
yeah.
part of what that authenticity comes from is the performances in this movie, too. They just knock it out of the park.
Really,
It's
just across
incredible.
the board. It's like I said, it's a very small cast, but everyone's given at least one scene to really shine,
Right.
and everyone delivers. The scene with Elliot and her mom sitting out on the porch.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel.
Is that the one where she's talking about rocking her to sleep?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, it's like you feel it, man.
I remember one night, I think I must have been singing Twinkle Twinkle for about 45 minutes, and my throat was so dry and my legs were all cramped, and I thought, oh, Lord, I just can't do this for another second.
You should have thrown me in my crib and told me to get over myself.
I know.
So what did you do?
I kept rocking you.
Mom!
So, apologies to Nate's mom here, because Nate's mom does like to watch along, and I was like, man, is this a movie for moms? And I think it is. There are some moments in it where it's like, maybe I don't want to watch it with my mom.
I've never had dick sex before.
Do you want to have dick sex?
but
If you
this is
can't-
absolutely a movie for moms.
Yeah.
And that scene between Elliot and her mother when she's talking about letting go. And now that I have a son, and you've got a son, Nate, and you know, these moments are real. There are moments where I'm sitting there putting my kid to bed at night, and I look at him and I'm like, how much longer does this last? You know, how much
Exactly.
longer am I going to be laying next to my son while he falls asleep at night? You know?
Right. Well,
current outlook is like until he's 25. but we'll see. I doubt it's going to be that.
yeah, there are some parts that you're alluding to that are, you know, sex scenes or vulgar language or, just exposure to something that is weird or different or something that you can't relate to.
Yeah, and nothing in this movie is gratuitous.
No, absolutely
the first of
not.
all. From the language to the implications of sex, none of it is gratuitous. It is all with purpose, and it's all handled so deftly.
Yes, and the reason I bring it up is because I don't see how it's possible to get caught up on a scene like that and then dismiss the things that might be really effective. Because the scene that you're talking about, the mother, is sharing a story with her daughter who's willing to listen. Part of the change is that she's learning to get along with her family and cherish the time that she has with them.
One of the other pieces of advice that older Elliot gives her is that you really should spend as much time with your family as possible. And it prompts her to talk with her mom, or it prompts her to go golfing with her brother Max. It prompts her to indulge her brother Eugene's obsession with Saoirse Ronan. Which is one of the funniest things about the movie, to me.
Yeah, we definitely need to backtrack to the actual narrative of the story, but since that scene had already been brought up, that was the one life experience that I can say that I share with that mother. I put my son to bed when he was a baby. My wife would get up and do the breastfeeding, and and then she would go back to bed, and it was my responsibility to put him back to sleep. That going on 9 years now has been my responsibility. Bedtime is my thing. And so right there, as she's talking about the things that she won't see in her daughter anymore as she grew up, you become proud of the development of the child, but then you realize what you're going to be missing. And that is one of the 2 times that made me cry, Brian.
You turned to me and you just said, "Crib, all matter of fact." And so I put you down and you looked at me and you smiled and then you rolled over and you fell asleep. And I was so proud of you because you didn't need me to get you to sleep anymore. I also realized that I wasn't going to get to rock you anymore. And I guess that's how I feel now. Really proud of you, but also a little bit sad.
Yeah. Did you cry in this movie?
I got misty, man.
Got misty.
And I don't mean our favorite listener. Zing. So, with apologies to Jeff.
Who's actually responsible for us watching this? Well, you said you would have gotten to it anyway, but
there were two scenes, and I think this one hit me hard. Mm-hmm. The other scene hit me harder, and it's same lines where a character is kind of just putting something existential out there. Now, the difference between the scene with mom and the other scene that kind of made me really react to it was that the scene with mom presented things that I do actively think about in my day-to-day life.
Right.
In a very real way. The other scene hit me because I'm like, I've never thought about that.
Is it the boat?
I don't think it's the boat.
He's not in a boat? Okay.
Is he in a boat? I don't remember if he's in the boat. Maybe they're in the boat, but it's when
a lot of stuff happens in the boat.
A lot of stuff happens in the boat. Okay. Some very funny things happen in the boat.
Yeah.
Chad and Elliot are talking, and Chad, I think it's when they're just swimming, honestly. Chad posits, do you remember the last time you ever went out with friends and played pretend?
Yeah, that was in the boat.
Do you remember the last time you went out with friends as a kid and just played pretend the whole day?
I remember doing that a lot.
Yeah? Do you remember the very, very last time you ever did it? Isn't that sad? To think that there was a time when you were out biking around with your friends, pretending you were getting chased by zombies. You were just all dirty and sweaty and having the best time, and then you went home and parked your bike in the garage and went to bed, not realizing that that was the last time you were ever going to get to do that. But then the thing about not saying goodbye is that you also miss savoring when it's going to be like the last time you get to do that thing. I don't know, sort of, it doesn't make sense.
It was deep as hell, Chad.
Yeah. Went to poetry university, majored in deepness.
It was in the boat. Okay, this one
that's the
hit
one.
me. I was like, no, I don't. And Chad's whole bit here is like, there's a time in your life where you go out with friends and you're playing pretend and you're imagining things, and you go back home and you go to sleep, and it never occurred to you, you never understood that that was the last time you'd ever do it.
Yeah.
But there's a last time for it. And I was like, that's
fucking
real
deep.
talk, man. Like, that was so profound.
Yeah.
I
fucking
really, really loved it.
Chad was talking to our protagonist about her fears of leaving and losing the farm. It did get me thinking about that particular type of experience. And I tried to think about, well, when was the last time I played with G.I. Joes?
That was, G.I. Joes were what I thought of too.
Yeah.
Unlike most of my He-Man figures and my like Transformers and stuff, they stayed in the house.
Yeah.
My G.I. Joes went outside.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
true. Yeah, me too.
There were like construction sites because they were building up my neighborhoods. There was all these dirt mounds and shit, and we would just take the vehicles and the toys out there and play with them. I lost my Jinx figure out there in the mud. But
That's unlucky.
That's what fucking happened. You know, you were out there playing with them.
Well, Jinx is unlucky.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, I still just kind of like walking around the neighborhood or something. If I see a ditch or some little brush growing up out of the grass that looks like it could be an environment for the G.I. Joes, I still see that shit in my
Still
face.
think
I'm
about
like,
it.
man,
Still think
that's
about it.
I could just see one of my action figures hanging off that cliff.
Yeah.
You know, but as far as it actually just kind of disappearing, the way that Chad describes it, I mean, it's very profound. It really gets you thinking, but I don't think it just cuts off like that. I feel like the kids that you played with, the friends that you had, they would grow out of things that you might still want to be doing.
Oh, sure.
You know?
We're all kind of going at a different pace.
Or, yeah, and like maybe Stuart's more interested in sports now than he ever was action figures, or maybe he's into this now and we don't do that quite as much. And I liked my action figures way later than most of the people at school.
Look,
you know what I mean?
Some of us are still buying them.
But you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
For me, it was like storytelling, I think.
That's absolutely it. Because it kind of gives way. Like, eventually it becomes this sort of insular process. At least it was with me. And it was around the Ninja Turtle era that started happening with me. Like, late 80s, like 88, 89.
Uh-huh.
The Ninja Turtle line was the one that I was doing that sort of stuff with. Like, creating stories and scenarios.
I never once played with my G.I. Joes as though they were G.I. Joes. Not once. Like, I didn't play, oh, here comes Duke and Scarlet, and they're going to go beat up Cobra Commander. The action figure was a new character. I mean, it wasn't G.I. Joe. It was Army sometimes, but they were never the characters that I watched on cartoons. Like, that,
you ever see that
never happened.
The Community episode that was like an episode of G.I. Joe?
No.
You gotta see the episode of Community.
I mean,
that was
maybe.
like a G.I. Joe episode.
Which one are you talking about?
It was an animated episode of Community. Britta's character was codenamed Buzzkill. And like it was so good.
Yeah.
Well worth checking out, especially if you grew up with G.I. Joes.
Yeah, for sure. I probably will check it out then. But just the same, even though my reaction to that was more logical in the sense that it was like, well, it doesn't quite really happen that way. It's still a bombshell moment in the movie, in the story. And
yeah, because it's just an example of the sort of thing that the movie's talking about. The past is impermanent, right?
Right.
And you can't always rely on the things that were there for you to consistently be there, which is not just, and this is like the brilliant thing that this movie does, it's not just young Elliot's arc, it's also old Elliot's arc.
Right.
Right? So they both end up learning a lesson along the way. that is profound and all linked together.
And that particular moment, I think, also functions in bringing Chad and Elliot together.
Yes.
Clearly, because it's a moment where they connect, you know? So not only does it work like that, it also speaks to the themes of the movie, the overarching theme of the last time, the saying goodbye, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're talking about a bunch of the themes and things like that. We should probably explain the narrative just a little bit more.
So talking about Chad and how profound this moment is, a lot of the sort of narrative struggle in this movie is, on the one hand, old Elliot has said, stay away from Chad. Do not get close to Chad. Don't associate with Chad. And we meet Chad. And not only do we look at Chad and think, what's wrong with this guy? But Elliot, as she talks with him and meets him, from the moment they first meet, is like, this cannot possibly be a guy that's as bad as you're saying he.
Right.
Right? He's a deeply sensitive, very affable, funny, just laid back guy whose interest in not just Elliot, but what he's doing on the farm, just everything he's engaging with, the people and the conversations he meets and has, it all seems just authentically nice.
Yeah, very benign.
He is a very nice guy. And so you've got young Elliot who is really giving him the cold shoulder for chunks of this movie, but then every time they get close, the facade fades immediately, right? And she's just like, I can't do this. I can't treat this guy bad. He is demonstrably the nicest human being I've ever met in my life.
Yeah, the movie very quickly dispenses with the idea, is this time travel thing happening or not?
Yes.
The idea at the very beginning of the movie, as Elliot's going out on her adventure to head off to the university, and sort of the last hurrah, they're going to go out and do shrooms, you know, go camping and do shrooms as
it's like
friends,
they're trying to check.
You know?
They're trying to check a lot of boxes off here. So the movie opens and she's like, you know what? That cute waitress at the restaurant we go to, I'm going to go tell her that I like her. And the next thing you know, they're like making out and she's a summer fling.
Right.
And they go to the woods and they're going to have these shrooms and just see what happens.
Right.
Over the course of the night, you know?
And that's when she first encounters her older self, her 39-year-old self, played by Aubrey Plaza, who does a wonderful job as well. She keeps up with these actresses.
I mean, that's the amazing thing is that
that they keep up with her.
Yeah.
It's really great. But that's the first time that they meet each other, and young Elliot assumes, of course, that she's tripping, and maybe she is, maybe she's not, we don't know, but she's talking to her older self, and Aubrey Plaza's character kind of lays out some general advice, kind of gives her an idea of where they are by their 39th year.
There was a moment early in this when they're first sitting there by the campfire and Elliot's friends are off having their own little trips, and it's just old Elliot and young Elliot sitting there talking, and then eventually they're in the tent and they're laying next to each other and continuing this conversation, where I thought, is this the whole movie? Is it just going to be the two of them talking for 90 minutes? And I was like, I would be okay with that. The conversation they have is so funny and so surprising. It's such a delight to watch the two of them interact.
Elliot, come on. Dude, I'm you. Well, I'm 39-year-old you. What? What's up? What are you talking about? You're me. Fuck off. What? You fuck off. Your teeth. So? Those aren't my teeth. What about my teeth? What? There's a fucking gap in your teeth. I don't have a gap in my teeth. Yeah, dude, fuck you. Wear your retainer. In your hair. It's so dry and it's dark. Take it easy. You have bangs. I don't have bangs. I have no plan. Take it easy, bitch. First of all. And your boobs are saggy. My boobs aren't saggy. Okay, you can't even see my boobs. I don't see it. Oh my God. Forgot how fucking dense I was.
See, that's the second time you've brought up the fact that this is funny.
Do you not think it's funny? I think it's pretty funny.
I think it has funny moments, but I think I've said on here before, I don't laugh out loud at comedies.
You're going to be psyched. You're a PhD student. Fuck yeah. And then young Elliot is like, you're telling me I'm 40 and I'm still in school?
Yeah.
That sort of stuff.
It's not like laugh out loud funny. I think there might have been one or two moments.
It's just delightful, I think.
It is. And it just made me think a little bit about last week when you said we were going to get away from the drama.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is heartwarming. I don't know that I would call it funny. Like, I don't necessarily laugh at any time, except that I get big smiles on my face.
That's it. It's a very endearing movie. Maybe it's not it's not a comedy per se, but it is just, you will be smiling throughout this movie.
Yeah. And also crying, as we've mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all over the place in a great way.
All right. One of the moments I did laugh at, and again, it's in that initial interaction.
I've got one.
Well, mine is where old Elliot draws attention to her missing pinky toe.
Ta-da! It's our missing pinky toe. Oh. Remember from the tequila accident at Ruthie's second wedding? Oh, fuck. That has not happened yet. Shit, I shouldn't have said that. Actually, I kind of miss my toe. Can I see it? Holy shit.
That was, yeah.
Like, that's great.
That was fun.
At that point, young Elliot's still like, I don't think I buy this. Like,
yeah,
who are you?
she's not sure that it's real. Yeah. And we're not sure that it's real. We don't know what this is actually going to be.
I think one of the things that sells that early scene is that old Elliot seems totally unfazed by what's happening. Right?
Yeah.
If Elliot has traveled back in time 20 years, she's not showing it, like she's just like, oh, hey, yep, it's me. I'm 39. It's like not a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is the way you would expect a mushroom-induced hallucination to behave.
Exactly.
So,
like the omniscient mushroom-induced hallucination.
It's almost like she's waiting for her younger self to catch up. Like, this is real. Like,
just to drive the point home, of course, she puts her contact info in young Elliot's phone.
Right. But even then, you think it could be like Tyler Durden situation here. Like, even when she's entering her information in the phone, it could be like, okay, well, they're presenting it this way, but it's actually young Elliot punching in numbers and stuff.
Yeah, maybe she's just kind of talking to herself throughout this movie.
Exactly.
I do love that moment, though, when they finally get each other on the phone and old Elliot's like, fuck, I didn't think this was going to work. And they're just talking on the phone across 20 years.
Yeah, it's so interesting, too. Like, on top of being heartwarming and cheer-jerking and funny and, like, it's also, like, really creative idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
The long and short of it, I guess, is she first encounters her older self while she's tripping. And like you mentioned, she starts to give basically broad advice. Like, this is kind of where we are at my time. This is sort of where you're going. But you know what? Treat your mom better. Treat your brother better. Go play golf with him or something. And younger Elliot's just like, what are you talking about? Like, this is what my hallucination is bringing, like this is so boring kind of situation. But that's also kind of the moment when she takes a second, meaning Aubrey Plaza, older Elliot, takes a second, and you can see she's really debating whether she should even mention this thing.
Yes, yeah.
Or is our life just so flawless and perfect you don't want to change anything?
Can you avoid anyone named Chad?
What? Who the fuck is Chad? You have one chance to tell your younger self your biggest life regrets. And you ask me to avoid someone named Chad?
Yeah.
Are you high?
No. Just do it.
And just kind of plants that seed as young Elliot comes down from her trip, falls asleep in the tent, and we don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, at that point, what did you think this movie was going to be about?
Well, I did everything I could to avoid any kind of reading on it at
Yeah.
all. So at that moment, I mean, it was going along the lines that I think that it ultimately did. Like, I kind of had the idea that the older self was going to shepherd the younger self through tough things, right?
Yeah.
Like tough situations, tough times. And that's sort of what it is, but it becomes a very two-way street by the end. And I feel like we should wait until we get to the end to talk about that.
I didn't anticipate that at all.
Yeah.
But after that initial meeting, I thought this movie was going to be about her mom. And her mom was going to die at some point right after she left for school.
Yeah, but she dispenses with that pretty quick, though.
And that's why I thought that was great. I was, oh, shit. Literally 2 scenes later. Mom? No. She's fine. But I thought it was going to be about the
I think
mom.
because a lot of people probably thought that.
Yeah,
And
which is clever. You're getting out in front of me while I'm thinking about the movie. I'm like, you movie, you're so sly. But I thought the Chad thing was going to be a throwaway. Like, I thought it was just a throwaway little gag.
No, I didn't think that.
I definitely did not think that was going to be the crux of our narrative.
No, she took that too seriously when
Maybe
she
so.
delivered that. Because she
Maybe
was
so.
really it seemed in her mind like she was really debating whether this was something that she wanted to share with her younger self. Like, how big a change do I want to try and make? Am I trying to make a change for myself in the past? That was the other thing. What exactly is older Elliot's game plan here? If she's wanting her younger self to not meet Chad, as we determined by the end of the movie, that's a very defining relationship in her whole life.
Yeah, but I'm also thinking at this point, does older Elliot have a motive? Because did this just spontaneously happen to her? Is she's just here, and the more they talk, the more she's going to be like, oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, do this or that. And I guess I kind of expected more ongoing interaction between the two of them than we ultimately end up with in the movie.
Yeah.
Because really, once we get beyond like the first act of the movie, older Elliot goes away for a long stretch of time and doesn't really come back till the third act.
It's basically like, let's get Aubrey Plaza for this part that she really only needs to be on set for probably a day.
Oh, yeah. And in a recording booth for like 2 hours. And
maybe. And most of the interaction between the two are over the phone, which is just a fascinating idea. Just
it's great.
Incredible. Like, what a way to do it.
We'll get into this a little bit later when we talk about the methodology of time travel and this type of time travel. It's kind of combining 2 different types of time travel into one movie.
Yeah.
And it's clever. I don't think I've ever seen this sort of presentation before.
No.
This combination.
It's very unique.
It's cool. It's really cool.
It's very unique. So shortly thereafter, she runs into Chad.
Like immediately.
In a fantastic way. You know,
Yes.
She's gone skinny dipping. She's gone swimming in the lake there on the farm. And it's laid out like something that she just does to relax. It's not like it's something that she's never done before, or like she's an exhibitionist the way Macy was. You know,
right? Yeah,
it's more like I'm just kind of chilling. I'm going to go ahead and
Kevin
get in the water.
Coveus lurking in the bushes with binoculars here. Only Chad.
What the fuck?
Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you.
What the fuck? How long have you been here for? I've been here for like 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes then.
And then Chad pops up, who I guess was just practicing how long he could hold his breath underwater.
Yeah, I mean, he's been under there for like at least 2 whole minutes at that point. It's like holding his breath like goddamn Batman under there.
Yeah, and he just pops up and freaks her the fuck out, right? And when she learns his name, she really freaks out, because that was the first indication that maybe her trip or her hallucination might be real.
Did you know that a cranberry has 4 pockets of air?
Wait, you work here, Washington?
Yeah, boy. Tom is actually such a cool guy. You're lucky he's your dad.
How'd you know he's my dad?
Because you got the exact same face. Except you're the girl version.
Sick.
Same cheeks.
Thanks. I love hearing that. It's really nice. What's your real name?
Chad.
What? What did you just say?
I said my name's Chad.
Is that short for anything? Chadwick, Chandler, Charles, Chad, Michael Murray.
Nope. It's just Chad.
Oh my god. I gotta go. Turn around. Like, close your eyes or something.
Yeah. And then what happens is, as she's leaving and he tries to get her name, she says her name is Ray Romano.
Yeah.
And then when she calls old Elliot,
I think she texts her, yeah.
She texts her, mentions that she just met Chad, and Elliot's response is, "Don't go there, Ray Romano."
Don't go there, Ray Romano. Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, at that point we know, gosh, this is real.
And it is almost like a horror movie reaction from young Elliot. As it would be. Like, holy crap, what's going on?
Right.
You know, how does she know that I just said that? How does she, you know, like...
Yeah, her response is to shriek. She's in her boat, right? She shrieks and
now
tosses
she's running
the phone.
through the forest, I think. Oh, no, you're right. No, she
throws the phone in the water.
Yeah. Very next scene is a bowl of rice, which I thought was fun.
Ew, a bowl of rice. That's never good. You're supposed to be waterproof. Or, well, water resist.
Cool, yeah, thanks, Spencer.
Yes.
But yeah.
Tried and true method.
The immediate impact of Chad. I'm going to talk about Chad for a second, because this introduction for Chad was great. Popping out of the water is like this instant out of nowhere thing, both visually and in her life, right? So it's like a visual representation of the fact that this thing came out of nowhere. This person, this experience, everything that Chad is and becomes comes out of nowhere for her, right? She's got all these plans in the world, everything that she's expecting to happen, everything that she's expecting to stay the same, and this thing pops up out of the water out of nowhere. But also, he is immediately likable. I mean, he's got this beautiful face, this charming crooked smile, you know, that's just...
He's like a real dude.
Yeah, back to that authenticity word, that genuine word.
What were you doing down there for so long? That's some weird shit.
I was just swimming around. I wasn't doing any weird stuff.
Okay, well, fuck, I'm naked, so don't come over here. Or, like, don't go under and open your eyes or some shit.
Okay. Just so you know, there's, like, zero visibility down there. Like, I couldn't even see, like, a Subway sandwich length in front of me, so you're okay.
Okay. All right.
That was such a fun first day. I learned so much stuff about cranberries.
Respectful of her situation, being nude, you know?
Yeah,
like, I can't see anything down there, so you're good.
Yeah, there's no visibility.
You know,
under there.
And yeah, and then she, of course, tries to duck down under the water and hide and runs into this big snake.
Yeah.
And, of course, he pretends to go down there and get it. It's just, he's really, really nice, and you like him right away. But you know, because it's a movie, that they're trying to get you. They're trying to get you, Brian.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with this guy, and we know it because older Elliot has told us we got to stay away from this guy. So something is weird about this guy. And as immediately likable as he appears, we know there's something shady, there's something wrong.
Right.
And we operate from that perspective moving forward.
And so does Elliot, even as she, like us, is just drawn to him.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, we know something's wrong with him, but him? Really? We're right there with Elliot the whole way through.
Mm-hmm. This guy that played Chad.
Percy Hines White also appears on Netflix's Wednesday series.
Yeah, I found that out recently.
Other things. That's the big thing he's in.
I was falling in love with this guy.
Yeah. Sure. What's not to love?
We're looking for red flags, but...
Yeah, right. Right, exactly.
You know, it's believable from a life perspective that things can start really, really good and end really, really bad.
Yes.
A lot of relationships that end really bad only end really bad because they were so good to begin with.
Right, and we just got to the point where something happened.
Yeah.
It didn't start that way, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just kind of waiting to see some glimmer, some glimpse of, okay, what could it be? Right?
Right. And maybe bringing my own cynicism to it, but by this point, you also know that it's a human drama, and it's not going to go out of left field. You know, like he's not an eco-terrorist or something.
Right.
It's like it's something that's gonna be real.
He's something uniform with the community in which this movie exists. It's not gonna be something wacky.
Right, exactly. It's something that that people experience in community and in relationship. And I'll say the one thing that I was like, wait a minute. He ends up at a breakfast with his employer, her dad, and the family, and kind of ends up inviting himself along on a golf game. I mean, accepts an invitation that it's clear she didn't want him to be there.
Right.
But at that breakfast, he talks about how he wants to go into study pharmaceuticals to work on underfunded cancer research.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, well, that seems like a stretch.
Is he Martin Shkreli? Is that what you're...
Yeah, like either
Is he like Pharma Bro?
Yeah, exactly. Either he's a pharma bro, he ends up taking advantage of people in the future, or, there's so much mistrust around drugs and pharmaceuticals.
He's like a John Connor figure for pharmaceuticals.
And then the other option being that he's so folksy, farming cranberries so that he can get closer to his dead grandfather. He could understand that life that his grandfather lived, right?
Yeah.
All of that felt like some of this has to be a lie.
Yeah.
And so, that was the one moment where I was kind of like, okay, well, Chad, is he being 100% truthful here? And yeah, he is.
He is, yeah. Talking about these sorts of moments, and especially going back to what we were talking about earlier about the dialogue in the movie, there are multiple points in this movie where I found myself wondering if there was even a script. And normally you'd say that in a way that's really condescending and derogatory about a movie, like, who wrote this? Yeah. But what I mean here is that everything comes off so naturally that it's almost impossible to believe somebody wrote it. And I'm talking specifically about, again, the conversations Elliot has with her friends Ruthie and Ro, the conversations that she has with Chad, especially when they're like swimming in the lake together or they're on the boat together. The moment you mentioned where he's talking about why he's there and what his aspirations are, those are the times where the movie feels like a movie. But there are so many scenes in this movie where I just felt like the cameras were on and the kids were just being kids.
Yeah. I think that happens most often when the storyteller has something personal to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the background of this movie is, the director or the writer, but clearly the best scenes are pulled out of things that you've probably experienced or some variation of something similar that you experienced.
Sure. Yeah.
They say, write what you know. Your personal experience, like, what are your feelings?
Yeah.
If you know how to place your feelings into a script, then that's going to come off much more naturally. And I think that the scriptwriter brought a lot of his or herself to this. I'm not even sure who is the screenwriter.
It's the same. The director wrote the screenplay, Megan Park.
I feel like this was a very personal story.
Yes.
Or at least it comes across that way. So
Megan Park was an actress on the series Secret Life of the American Teenager, which was on ABC Family around 2008. This is, I think, the second movie she directed after a movie called The Fallout, which came out in 2021 and starred Jenna Ortega. We love her. Right, folks?
People do.
I think she's great. She's
fine.
I think Shailene Woodley was in it as well. But it's another kind of... Well, that one's about a school shooting. So it's a coming-of-age movie, but it's a lot heavier than this. So I'm going to say I hope she was drawing from personal experience more in My Old Ass than she was with the other one.
Well, in sticking with the theme of the movie, this will be my last olive.
Oh my God. Forever? Oh my God.
Tonight.
Oh, okay,
Tonight.
Okay, wow. Jeez.
But who knows what the jar will look like when I come back to it, Brian?
Oh, God.
Maybe my wife will have had some olives.
Okay, well, yeah. I was thinking, like, what will it look like if I come back to it a year from now? Gonna be cloudy.
It could be.
Chunks of things that are neither olive nor pimento floating around in it.
How long can a stuffed manzanilla olive last on its own?
In, like, brine? I really don't know.
And we'll never know.
No.
Okay. Jar. Going away. Sticking with a whiskey, though.
Also, on the subject of the script and dialogue, mentioning things that were funny in this, there was one thing I did laugh out loud at that I actually backed up to rewatch because I was like, that was a great little moment. And it's right after Elliot finds out that they're going to sell the farm. And Elliot goes to confront her dad about it.
I'm really sorry, Elliot. It's already in progress. I got a really good offer we couldn't turn down. Thought you'd be happy about it. All you talk about is leaving this place.
My God, I assumed it would always be here.
You know what they say. Assumptions are made. Most assumptions are wrong.
Is that what they say, Dad? Why don't you put it on a hand towel then?
Yeah.
Which is great.
You're right. That was one of the good moments.
That's so good.
Something like a throw pillow, though. Was it a hand towel?
I thought it was hand towel. Maybe it was throw
whatever.
pillow.
Yeah, it was
either
the same
way,
kind of idea.
It's the same principle. We put these like hokey sayings on things.
I did like that.
Why don't you put it on a hand towel then?
That wasn't the moment that got me, though. The one that I got was very much a throwaway line, but it was very funny. But as young Elliot's relationship starts to develop with Chad, and she's looking for all these red flags that we're looking for, but he just keeps showing up at the most opportune times, always has the most innocent response to whatever reason that he might be interacting with her.
Yeah.
Innocent and real. He just mentions, hey, I saw you on your boat. And you're like, why are you watching me on the boat? It's like, well, I was just looking out on the water and you were on your boat. It's not like there's a lot of people around. But
there are 10 people in this town. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's stuff like that. But as things start to move along with him, she's more and more scared and more skeptical and trying to figure it out. And she has sent text after text after text after voicemail after voicemail after text to her older self, who is apparently no longer responding.
Right, just vanished.
Where are you? Why are you not answering? I've sent you like 50 fucking messages.
Yeah, which at that point I thought, well, maybe it was a hallucination. But then whose number is this that you have in the phone? And what number are you dialing? And why are they not responding?
Yeah, there are so many reasons why she could have stopped responding. It could be simply that the connection is lost.
Right, because it's going to the future.
It could be that it was a hallucination to begin with. It could be that young Elliot has altered the timeline.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really think about it in those terms.
I gave that like a second of thought. And the only reason is because I wanted to cover all my bases to talk about it. But this is obviously not the kind of movie that is concerned about things like that.
Right, for sure.
So obviously that's not what's happening here. But we're left to wonder, just like Elliot, where is Aubrey Plaza? Because she just kind of goes away. And when she finally comes back, to me, it's another really funny moment. Because she was just at like a fucking retreat for 4 days.
Dude, where the fuck have you been? I thought you fucking died.
Dude, I was gone for 4 days, okay? 4 days on my hubby retreat. I get back, I have 200 messages from you.
The fuck is hubya?
It's transcendental meditation, but better, actually. Penelope Disick invented it. Fuck, I was so worried about you. I had to eat like 3 pounds of my girlfriend's friend's weed to get here.
Oh, fuck.
Are you okay?
I know that it's supposed to be funny, and it's not funny, but I become so invested in wanting to feel the feels. It doesn't bring me to laughter.
I thought it was very clever.
It is. It's absolutely clever.
It's handled in a very Aubrey Plaza-esque kind of way.
And Elliot's like, well, why the shit wouldn't you just tell me that you're going on a retreat? You know,
Right.
like you're gone for 4 days of this 3-week period before she heads off to college. She's falling for this guy and she's trying to get information from her older self. It's like, why am I staying away from this person?
Just dropped
Tell
off
me
the
what
map.
is wrong with him.
Yeah.
You know, like I need advice. I need something that's going to keep me away from this guy because he just keeps showing up.
And she does attempt to reestablish contact by consuming the remainder of the mushrooms.
Yeah, right.
Which leads to a really pretty amazing and unpredictable sequence where Elliot is performing a Justin Bieber song. It's pretty remarkable.
where she decides to be Justin Bieber giving out the roses instead of being the 14-year-old girl that receives the rose.
Yeah.
That's fun too. But what it is the equivalent of, you're not answering my emails, you're not answering my texts, you won't pick up the phone, I'm going to your house. You know, like I'm going to knock on the fucking door. I can see her face to face if I go on a bad trip, basically.
Yeah.
And of course it's unsuccessful because the Justin Bieber thing.
Yeah.
And so she decides to just go with her gut, follow the feelings that she has. I think she maybe talks to her friend about that, you know, goes
she does
for
talk
another,
to Ro about it.
For a, you know, a different avenue for advice of the situation. And God, in that scene, you talk about everybody having a moment to shine. Ro is just wonderful in that.
You didn't have to show up like this, girl.
Yeah.
But man,
it's not like some big emotional scene for her either. She's so matter of fact about who she is, about who Elliot should be when they're talking about their sexuality and their labels.
Yes.
And stuff. And she's just a person. She's just like clearly just a person.
Yeah.
Not somebody playing a character or acting. Is just incredible. And that's across the board with these kids.
Yeah. And that's including Max and Eugene, the brothers.
Yeah, like the kids.
Yeah. Eugene is definitely a weirdo, though. Like a couple of my favorites.
Kids are.
Eugene is a delight. And I don't want to spoil what he's done design-wise to Elliot's room.
All we do is spoil.
Yeah, it's just covered in pictures of Saoirse Ronan.
I was gonna say we gotta put up like a spoiler,
which I think is just so funny for like this kid who's like 8 or 9 years old to be obsessed with Saoirse Ronan.
My admission here is I have no idea who that is.
Oh my God, you didn't see like Lady Bird?
No.
You didn't see Little Women, Nate?
No.
Oh,
no.
For fuck's sake! What are we gonna do?
Do you have to read something?
No, that's the beauty of Little Women. You can watch it. You don't have to read it at all. Not only can you watch Little Women, but Little Women has Saoirse Ronan, Florence Pugh is in it, and Bob Odenkirk is in it.
Oh, okay.
I mean, and Timothée Chalamet. Moms out there. Yes. Timothée Chalamet is in this movie. You guys, I don't have to sell you guys on it. Everybody's seen Little Women except for you.
Well, I guarantee my mom doesn't know who Timothée Chalamet is.
Oh.
I'm not sure I do either. But
Jesus. Oh my God. All right.
Who's the main actress in this movie?
Hi, I'm Aubrey Plaza. Hi, I'm Maisie Stella. And we're gonna test each other on millennial and is it Gen Z? Gen Z. Gen Z knowledge. Check it out.
Her name is Maisie Stella. And while Maisie Stella...
Maisie?
Yeah, Maisie. You don't see a lot of them around, right? Well, that's, again, because she's Canadian. And that's probably why most of you haven't heard of her, because she's apparently a big deal in Canada.
Wasn't that Scotty's wife's name?
No.
Macy! No, Macy.
Maisie
I'm sorry,
is...
whiskey's starting to...
Maisie Stella was on the TV series Nashville here in the US.
Okay. Wasn't that Hayden Pan?
Yeah. And like Connie Britton, I think, was on that show. But she kind of stopped acting for a while, and she's a recording artist in Canada. She's a big deal. Big enough to have a stalker, at least, which I learned from her Wikipedia page.
Oh, no kidding.
But then she came back to acting for this movie, really.
Okay.
Talk about not missing a damn beat.
Or like, I was going to say, well, I've never heard her music, but if it's anything like her acting, I mean...
It's probably good.
Talk about finding your calling.
I want to see more of Maisie Stella. 100%. She is just so damn delightful in this.
At any rate, so she's been looking for advice from her older self who wasn't available. So she's just gone with her gut and her advice from Ro, who says, don't worry about your labels and follow your heart and all of the things that you want your best friend to tell you, which I think that conversation that she has with Ro at the pier there, she talks about, well, I've always been gay. What does this mean? Does this mean I'm bi now, that I'm like falling for this guy? I love the way that this conversation is treated because it's not treated so heavy. Like, oh, this is some huge personal choice. Let's get into that, everyone.
No, it's fucked. It is actually fucked. Just because you like a man doesn't make you any less queer. I don't think any less of you for being straight. No, sorry.
Straight? It's the fucking worst thing you've ever called me in my life.
Like you said it yourself about labels and shit, and if they feel useful, then use them. And if they stop feeling useful, then stop using them. You told me that. Listen to yourself. Listen to your heart. Your motherfucking gut. Listen to your gut.
You know, it's more like I know this about myself, and my best friend knows this about myself, but it's a little weird what I'm feeling right now. What do you think that is? You know, it's not like some big moral choice.
Yes, that's the way to put it. It's not a decision that the entire movie hangs on.
Exactly.
Right? This is just another scene on the path to self-awareness.
Right, and they're just chatting about it.
And whatever the answer is, it's okay. That's the whole point of what Roe's getting at. All of that stuff is treated as incidental to the actual main plot, which is just,
right,
we're growing up. And that's it.
I feel like when I thought about what we were going to talk about tonight, we could kind of pass by it, and there's plenty of meat on the bone if we just avoided this altogether, given that we're both white males.
Again, yeah.
In our age that we are. Back long ago, if you'll remember, we watched an episode of Quantum Leap that we called a very special episode.
Yes. It was a season 1 episode of new Quantum Leap called Let Them Play. What a week to bring that up, Nate.
Well, we had some real reservations about having that conversation because we thought we didn't have any perspective on it that anybody needed to hear. And then later on, the worst episode of that series also dealt with a trans character.
Mm-hmm.
And it had nothing to do with the fact that she was trans that made it so horrible. Just go back and listen to that episode.
Yeah, that was
the
one about the
Family Jewels.
That's what we called it. Was that what the name of the episode was?
A Family Treasure might have been the show.
Family Treasure was the title of the episode?
I think so. Fuck that episode.
It was not great. Yeah.
I bring that up only because Quantum Leap made the episode, both episodes, almost entirely about that topic. Everybody pay attention to the fact that it's a trans character. In this movie, it's just like, okay, so that's what they are.
It's like, what are you talking about? Of course we're going through this.
Right.
And it doesn't diminish anything. I think this is kind of what you're getting at.
It doesn't elevate anything.
It doesn't elevate it. It doesn't diminish it. It's just a fact of life. Is treated much more naturally narrative-wise. And I don't think it's any harder to process, and I don't think it's any easier to miss. And that's the most important thing. Of course we're thinking of the relationship she has with Chelsea, and we're thinking of the relationship she's developing with Chad, but we're not thinking the whole point of this is that she's a lesbian grappling with loving a guy. That's not the point. The point is that the feelings she's experiencing, whether they're from men or women or what have you, are universal feelings. That's the sort of representation that we should be aspiring to.
I agree. From a storytelling perspective, a worse script would have this be a straight girl wrestling with the fact that she might be gay.
Yes.
And I think that type of story would then become about the discovery factor of who am I really, you know?
Right.
And we need to skirt that and push that all aside in order to tell the story that this movie's trying to tell. Well, why not just make them both straight then? Like, what's the point of them being gay at all? And I think the reason is that it presents just that extra obstacle that could be keeping these two apart.
Yes. Yep. I'm lesbian and he's bad news. Why am I falling so hard for him?
So if you've got all of these things working against you, it has to be a real connection. It has to feel real. The love has to be real for it to actually come to fruition. So you get the added benefit of, okay, I'm kind of transcending who I am to be with him, but at the same time, it avoids the trappings of being rebellious or
Yeah.
Or woke, if you're going to be cynical about it.
Mm-hmm. At the risk of reducing it to a narrative device, it's a very clever narrative device.
And all the while, we trust Aubrey Plaza. She's not an
unreliable narrator.
Yeah, she is not an unreliable narrator. So we trust what she's being told, that this guy's no good and you need to stay away from him.
But what we don't understand...
we haven't seen it yet.
We don't understand Aubrey Plaza's motivation because we lack the perspective. And that's true of a few things. Yeah, I mentioned earlier the toe thing, where she's like, oh shit, I haven't lost the toe yet. You don't know about the tequila incident at the wedding. There's a couple other moments with her character where she suggests the future that she comes from, right? In ways that are both emotional and humorous. And the emotional part is, of course, tied to the climactic scene there at the end of the movie. But I'm thinking of the moment where they're sitting by the fire and she's eating the marshmallow.
Yeah.
And she says, chemicals. I forgot how much I loved chemicals, you know? And then there's a moment when they're talking on the phone a little bit later where young Elliot mentions that she's going to go eat dinner with her family and they're making salmon. And she says, I miss salmon so much. Enjoy it while it's around. And it's just, boom, that's it. It's over and done with. Like these little nods to whatever sort of future it is that older Elliot comes from.
40 years from now. No, not even 20 years from now.
But of course, the biggest revelation about Elliot's future doesn't have anything to do with chemicals or food or to what degree the world is on fire or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the revelation with Chad that comes at the end of the movie.
Just say it.
He had sex. I know. I'm sorry. I know you told me not to.
Dude.
Everything about him, feels so right. I'm sorry, but I've tried so hard to find one bad thing about him, and I literally can't. I just need you to tell me what he did. Just fucking lay it out, because I'm not going to be able to stay away from him. The connection is too real.
No.
What did he do? Tell me what he
I can't.
does. I swear to God. It literally cannot be that bad.
He died. That's what he did. Chad dies. And he dies after you have fallen so madly in love with him that you can't see straight, okay? After you can't imagine loving anybody else ever again. And you can't find anything bad about Chad because there isn't anything bad about Chad, okay? Elliot, it is so hard, okay? It is so hard. And I do not want you to have to feel that shit.
You know, it's one of those things that happens and I'm like, yeah, okay, I should have seen this coming a mile away. But it's a real testament to the movie that it's both the most obvious thing and
the right thing.
It's the right thing because both characters have been led to this point narratively to accept and understand that the past is once again immutable, and just because something goes away, it doesn't devalue the time that you spent there.
Exactly.
The past is the past for a reason, but things go away, things change, and you can treasure it all.
And then when you discover that this is the prequel to Millennium, it's insane.
Wild. No, I did not see that coming.
This is not the end.
You will not believe Sherman shows up at the end and he's like, this is the beginning. They're swimming naked in a lake, right?
This movie avoids just being about what you can learn from your youth. You know, it would be very easy to make a theme about, oh, everybody thinks that they're so stupid when they're young. Let's just make a movie about where this young person points out the things that you need to remember as you're old.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be very easy to make the movie that's well, you get to talk to your younger self and put them on the right track. What do we learn as adults that we need to teach to our youth? This movie is a two-way street.
Yeah.
It does both things.
And I get it now. All the other advice was so good. I was taking so much of our life and our family, for granted. Yeah, I see that now.
Okay, well, you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
All of the advice that older Aubrey Plaza Elliot gives to younger Elliot will later improve the relationships with her family and in the long run make her life more meaningful, that allows you as the viewer to take your experiences from your youth to your better knowledge now and realizing they both have value.
Yes.
I mean, God damn it.
Yeah.
Fuck you, movie.
It's
Fuck
amazing.
you.
It is amazing how it threads the needle there at the end, just like perfectly.
I'm gonna love him so hard for however long we have.
Yeah, you're just saying that because you're young and dumb.
Okay, but if you weren't young and dumb, you'd never fucking be brave enough to do anything. If you knew how shitty and unfair life would be, you'd never leave your house.
And this movie's like, yeah, but what did you know then that you'd forgotten?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, God damn it, I hate you, movie.
My opinion is I hate it. If it's bad, I'll hate it because I hate bad writing. If it's good, I'll be envious and hate it all the more. You don't want the opinion of another writer.
And maybe being young and dumb isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like,
good for you, Elliot. Man.
Damn.
What a great movie.
Fucking lands it. And there's another really kind of funny part at the end where Chad shows up again and acknowledges older Elliot, and young Elliot introduces, this is my Uncle Michelle.
Yeah, right.
Which is great. But the best
I've never met any uncles named Michelle before.
But the best part is the sort of emoting that Aubrey Plaza does. When she sees Chad, Chad comes in to hug her, and you can really just feel her heartache. Like the camera just lingers on her. It's just such a cathartic moment. And it's a cathartic moment that up until that point, you're not sure you're going to get out of this movie. The moment where old Elliot has a chance to see Chad one more time after we know what's happened and what his fate is.
That was my second cry.
That's so good. It's so good.
And the whole movie, you're examining Chad, looking for these issues, and have come to the conclusion at some point that he's just too perfect. And I actually got to the point where I was like, okay, well, this guy is just too perfect. It's almost to the point where you've written somebody that's impossible.
Yeah.
And at that moment, that is when you learn that he's supposed to be impossible.
Yes.
He's the impossible person because there's nothing wrong with Chad.
Mm-hmm. There's nothing disqualifying about him.
And she loves him so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like she falls for him despite all her best efforts. Yeah, it's a great ending.
The best ending. What else do you do?
All the best movies, you leave them reflecting on yourself. You walk out of them and you're really left thinking about who you are and the experiences you've had.
And what can I take from this movie to apply to my life?
Yeah.
And what from my life can I see in this movie? It's
like when I saw Transformers Revenge of the Fallen.
Optimus!
Let's roll.
Of course.
No. The lesson I took from that is maybe I should fucking stop watching Michael Bay Transformers movies. But yeah, this is the best kind of movie. One where you finish it and it lingers with you in a deeply personal way.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I've got two things to talk about here. One is that if I did find myself talking to my high school self, like my 18-year-old self, who loves Star Wars and knows that the prequels are around the corner, what I would probably say to him is, look, I know you're excited right now, but believe me when I say...
Temper your expectations.
No. Just wait until Star Wars Episode 8 comes out, because that's going to be one of your favorite Star Wars movies ever.
Oh, wow.
And I would just leave myself on that.
And you know what? You've just lost half our audience.
They're tallying it in their heads. Like, which one was fucking 8? Geez. Anyway.
No, they know which one that is.
They definitely know which one that is. But the other thing, Nate, and this is something that's just lodged in my brain for years is that when I was a senior in high school, me and a couple buddies, we always used to go to one of the local malls and hang out on Thursday afternoons.
Oh, you're a mall rat?
Yeah, kinda. The twilight of the mall rats, right? But we would go to the mall, maybe get a bite to eat, get a coffee, or like just hang out at the arcade. I'd go to the comic shop, things like that. We would always go to, I think there was a Walden Books there.
You fucking like mall rats, don't you?
Rowdy man, noochie noochies.
I mean, I relate to it a lot.
I do too. It's great.
It's fun. But there's one time I'm in this Walden Books at the mall. I can't remember what book I was buying. But, Nate, I'm going to be honest that the guy working the register looked extraordinarily similar to me. Like, same build, same face, glasses, like, a very similar guy. And he's ringing me up, and he's like, just out of nowhere, he's like, and I swear to fucking God this happened. Okay? This is a real thing that I experienced. The guy's like, hey, so you're graduating soon? And I'm like, yeah. And he said, where are you going to go after school? I was like, I'm going to USC, going to University of South Carolina. He's like, you majoring in journalism? I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, let me tell you something. I don't know,
Were you buying a book that had something to do with journalism?
No, I wasn't. Like, I don't know this guy. It was probably a fucking behind-the-scenes Star Trek book, for God's sake. You know, like the making of DS9 or something. But this guy's like, let me tell you something. I went to USC and majored in journalism, and this is where I'm working right now.
Did you major in journalism, Brian?
I did, but I changed my major later and altered the path, Nate. I don't know who this guy was. I don't know why he knew that, one, I was graduating soon, other than I'm like about the age, right? And two, the assumption that I'm going to USC. Oh, you're majoring in journalism, huh? Now, I will tell you something about...
That's a step, yeah.
About journalism major. It seems like a step, but one, I'm in a bookstore. So obviously I read and I like words.
Other people read?
Yeah, I mean, that's what they say.
I was about to say I read.
That's what they say. Well, we know you don't, Nate. But there's a lot of people in journalism for school, at least there was when I was in the journalism school at USC, that clearly want to be fiction writers, but can't hack it.
Right. Okay, yeah.
That's what I learned in my time there. Not that I wasn't one of those people as well, but I was like, okay, so maybe that's not a stretch either. But Nate, it was such a weird encounter. And I left there and I went up to my friends who were waiting outside the bookstore. I was like, I think I just met myself from the future.
That's crazy.
And he told me not to major in journalism.
Wow.
Yeah. Wild, right? Like, that's a thing.
It is pretty wild.
That is a thing that fucking happened to me, guys. So I think I may have had my Don't Marry Chad experience.
I think that if I put that in the cut out episode, people are going to be like, who the fuck edits these things?
It's a pretty remarkable story.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's a good story, man. Now that you're doing a podcast on time travel, you going to bring me along when
I do it?
Because you're going to have to do it.
I have to go back at some point.
Well, wait.
I think
no, you can't because you broke the loop.
I altered history.
You altered history.
I altered history, and so that version of me doesn't exist anymore.
So you're not going to necessarily find a time machine.
No, I don't know where my original self... I guess I would have had to get a degree in print journalism to actually get to the point where I discovered a time machine.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Could you go back for it?
Way to go. That's great.
Should go back for it.
I got to go back and get my degree in journalism. He comes back as like a grizzled soldier from the future. Like, what did I tell you? Eyes flashing like cable.
Yeah, you're dressed up like Louise Baltimore.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You got a big poof of hair.
That's it.
So, are we ready to talk about the method of time travel?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
If you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
So, the last episode about ill-conceived suicide attempt. This is like the polar opposite of that, I feel.
Really?
Yeah. So, first of all, as far as the time travel itself is concerned, there's really two types of time travel happening here. One is your typical time slide, where a character moves from one time period to another. And that's happening, obviously, with old Elliot coming back to the past. But then there's also this communication from the future element as well, because even after old Elliot returns to her time, they're able to maintain communication with one another. It's time travel, as is the case with a lot of time travel movies, really here is just a device to facilitate the narrative that's necessary to achieve the emotional beats and the themes that this movie's going for. But it's really a lot of fun. The question is, how would you do it? And the answer is shrooms.
Yeah. I think that, unfortunately, oversimplifies things, because in the age of smartphones, texting yourself and leaving yourself voicemails and just being able to call yourself on the phone, the very unique and new spin. The sheer creativity makes me want to put it up there pretty high, but at the
pretty high, yeah, just like Elliot, pretty high.
That's the other side of it, though, is basically it's just doing drugs.
It's drug consumption, heavy drug consumption. And I love that they talk. We mentioned this earlier, that Elliot talks about how drugs don't really agree with her. Obviously not, because what you do is travel through time.
If you could do weed or shrooms and time travel, I mean, that's what's happening on the most basic level,
on the
right?
most basic level, yes.
So as far as the method of time travel is concerned, it's drugs.
Yes, and I'm going to put this at a notch above Time Cop.
What? No.
Come on, I'm not really into this sort of stuff, but it's a much cooler way to travel through time. And at least it explains that
I feel
you could get back later because the high wears off. Like with Time Cop, you just have to walk back.
If we've got right. If we've got a time travel podcast and we're ranking the methods of time travel, I feel like this time travel is just a story device. It's not like they've come up with a cool machine. It's not like it affects the future this way or that way. Yeah. The time travel is almost ancillary to what it's actually supposed to be doing in the story.
Yeah.
So I feel like the Millennium Portal is better.
I don't know about that.
I mean, it's a giant machine that you back an airplane into and remove the passengers.
And it makes beds.
Right? And it makes beds. It does make your bed.
It straightens the room up.
So at this point, we've got 5. We've got the Guardian, the Time Machine from Time Cop, the Clock that went backwards, the Millennium Portal, and
Suicide.
And Suicide.
Let's face it, that's the new Clock Stopper watch this season.
Right. Jeez.
Look, I would put it between the Clock that went backwards and the Time Portal, personally.
And the Time Portal? Okay.
You said it yourself. It's a much more creative way to handle time travel.
I would put this below Millennium, but if you want to put it right above, I'll take this concession if you take the next one that I have.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, it's a fantastic fucking movie. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. But if we're, time travel.
I love the idea. Look,
drugs.
Nate, when are we going to see another movie where drugs cause someone to time travel? I'll answer that question. I think it's going to be next week.
Okay.
To be fair. So we kind of touched on this a little bit when we had the Ziggy Awards a few episodes back. But we're going to dig into the origins of some of the media that we've previously talked about here. So we're going to talk about Time Twisters, Chronocops, which is a short comic from 2000 AD that inspired time crimes. This is the story that got him thinking about time travel.
Right.
La Jetée, the inspiration for 12 Monkeys. We're also going to be looking at that, and that's a short film that is currently available on the Criterion Channel and probably available elsewhere, I hope. For Nate's viewing. La Jetée is the inspiration for 12 Monkeys, and those two actually do share quite a bit in common. So we're going to be hitting on both of those in our next episode.
And where do I find this comic book?
I don't think you download it anywhere. You just kind of have to poke around the interwebs for it, and it's only 6 pages long. But
all right,
the comic story, as I mentioned previously, Alan Moore, Dave Gibbons, two of the heavyweights.
Yeah, heavy
behind
hitters.
this shit, man. Team Watchmen did this comic. You know, it may only be 6 pages.
Zack Snyder?
But it's gonna no. But folks, thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your preferred podcast apps. Nate, are we weekly right now? We've been putting out bonus episodes on Mondays periodically here.
By accident.
We got these like overtime kind of segments where we kind of have more to talk about. And so we had a little bonus episode for Millennium. We had a little bonus episode for Touchback.
That's amazing to me
God, yeah,
that there was more to...
Touchback was like a full episode almost, this bonus episode.
We'll see. If people say, hey, this is boring because it was cut initially, then we'll stop. But for the time being, let's just consider the next actual Oh Boy episode to be the Origins episode.
Yeah. Of course, shoot us an email, ohboyqlpod@gmail.com. I was going to say send us suggestions, but like I'll be honest, the calendar's pretty full right now. There are slots. So you guys can...
I was going to say, look at this.
Recommend
Thus far, 2 of the 3 episodes that we've covered this season have been listener suggestions.
That's true.
And they've both been bangers.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, any suggestions, I'll take them.
And of course, you can find me on social media. I am at Captain Byrne, CaptnBern on Blue Sky, and I am Brian.Lee.Martin on Instagram and Threads.
And I am at Action Nate on both Blue Sky and Threads.
And that's a wrap, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, I'm Brian.
And I'm Nate.
And we'll see you in the future.
It was really nice to meet you, Chad.
Yeah, it's good to meet you too. Is she okay?
Yeah, she'll be okay.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
I think this is more of a baking soda situation now that I'm thinking about it, because I think if we put bleach on it, it would turn it all orange and stuff, but I don't know. Either way, it's like a cold water thing.